Hi guys, this is our first video lesson of the year. This is for 8th grade math, lesson 1.6, which is variables in familiar formulas. It's found on page 32 in your textbook, so if you are following along at home, please have your textbook open at page 32 along with this lesson. It'll help you follow along. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go over some of the vocabulary. There's really 3 vocabulary words in this lesson. They're all found on page 32, and they're all vocabulary terms that you have heard before. The first one is formula. A formula is an equation relating 2 or more quantities. So for example, our first one is going to be the perimeter formula. It's going to relate the perimeter to the lengths of the sides. So really the perimeter is just the sum of the lengths of a figure's sides. An area is really the amount of surface a figure covers. I remember there was a teacher that I worked with in Kansas. She had this a little self-made poster that looked a lot like this that kind of reminded her kids. She taught 4th grade what perimeter and area it was and the difference between the two. Now I know you guys have worked with perimeter and area, so this isn't necessarily something you need to memorize to succeed at this. You have done it before. You probably could already tell me that perimeter is the distance around, area is the amount of space inside, but I just kind of like this little graphic here, and maybe it'll help you remember as well in the future. The next thing I want to draw your attention to is on page 32. There's the blue notebook key concept box, and I tried to recreate it in this on this page here. You can kind of see I kind of ran out a little room, but you can always reference this on page 32 in your textbook. It's just kind of a good one to come back to, because you'll use these formulas over and over and over again for the rest of your math education life, to be honest. First we have the rectangle. If I'm trying to find the perimeter of a rectangle, I have 2 different ways. Really, I have it's saying that I have the measure of the length plus the measure of the width plus the measure of the other length and the other width. Okay, so I have perimeter equals length plus width plus length plus width. I'm going to put a little pause here before I go any further. I want to point out something that I've said in the past to my classes, but I'm going to say it again here just as a reminder. When I deal with variables, and when your math book deals with variables, a lot of math geeks out there, whenever they deal with a variable like L, they write it cursive. And the reason for this is simply to not get it confused with the number 1. So if that helps you in your homework, please be encouraged to kind of write this little loop-de-loop cursive L. It'll help you, it'll help me when I read your homework as well. All right, now really if you think about it, if I would use the commutative property, I could rearrange these so it's L plus W plus W, and really that helps me realize that I have 2 L's and 2 W's. So perimeter is also equal to 2 times L plus 2 times W, or another way of saying it would be perimeter equals the sum of the products of the lengths, the products of 2 times the length and 2 times the width. Perimeter equals the product of 2 times the length and 2 times the width. Okay, so there's our perimeter formula for a rectangle, and our area formula for a rectangle is simply going to be take the length and you multiply it by the width. And now if you can kind of picture that, you're going to end up kind of creating several boxes in here, and that's really what you're going to try to figure out with an area. How many boxes, how many squares does it take to fill this area? Okay, now interesting thing to point out, you can use this formula up here, the rectangle formula, when you deal with squares. However, it might be easier to you to try just using perimeter being equal to 4 times s being a side. Reminder, in a square all sides are equal, so really the length and the width are the same size. So instead of having L plus W plus L plus W, I really have 4 of the same lengths. So that's how this one's a little bit different. perimeter equals 4 times the side. My area is still the base side times the length sides, or the length times width. But in this case, it's S times S. Well, S times S is really the same thing as S squared, so we have area is equal to S squared. Okay? Now, let's put this into practice, shall we? I have on my paper here a picture of a rectangle, and this might be a garden bed or something like that if I was planting some flowers or something out in my front yard. Anyone that knows me well enough knows that I will not be planting flowers. That is not a talent I have. But for the case of this lesson, let's just kind of pretend that I'm kind of creating a flower bed here. It's 8 feet wide, it's 4 feet high. And perhaps I wanted to put a fence around this in order to keep any sort of rodents out or whatnot that might destroy my flowers. Okay, so the question really that I'm asking is how many feet of fence am I going to need to get around this flower bed? What is the perimeter of my flower bed is really what I'm asking. Okay, so going back to my perimeter formula, I'm going to remember that it is perimeter is equal to 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Okay? Now there's my formula. So how do I use a formula to solve a problem? Really what I got here is I have 3 variables in my formula. I have the P, which stands for perimeter. I have the L, which stands for length, and I have the W, which stands for width. Okay? And over here, I actually have 2 of these variables represented on this diagram already. So simply what I'm going to do is anytime that I find an L, because my length is 8, I'm going to replace it with an 8. And anytime I find a 4, I'm going to replace it with, anytime I find a W, excuse me, I'm going to replace it with a 4 because my width is 4. I don't have my perimeter labeled, so my perimeter is obviously going to remain P. All right? And I want to kind of point out when I do my math, I want to make sure that I keep my equal signs lined up. I want to keep as many of these pieces lined up as I can so that it's very easy for me to just go back and check my work. So I'm going to drop my P down because I don't have a perimeter yet. My perimeter is going to be equal to not 2 times L, but in this case it's going to be 2 times 8, and not 2 times W, but I'm going to add 2 times 4. So again, note that I simply just replaced my L with the number 8. I replace my W with the number 4 because my length is 8, my width is 4. Okay? Using order of operations now, I'm going to simplify these expressions. The expression on the left, which is simply P for perimeter, stays P still, and it tells me that my perimeter is going to be equal to, now I'm going to simplify by doing my multiplication problems first. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 2 times 4, which is 8. Okay? And now I have a much easier looking problem than I did all the way up here at the beginning. Okay? So now P is equal to 16 plus 8. The only thing I have left to do is to simplify and say that 16 plus 8 is in fact equal to 24. And my perimeter is equal to 24. Now this would be, I have used my formula to solve this. This is not a good answer for my homework yet though, because I want to point out that it is 24 feet, and that can be my answer for my homework. Okay? If you're following along in your book, on the top of page 33, you find a problem that looks like this. Oh, excuse me, I apologize. I forgot to find the area of this flower bed. So I found how much fencing I might need, but now I might need to know how much topsoil I need. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to figure out what the area of my garden bed is. So, excuse me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find the area of my garden. Remember my area formula is A equals L times W. Again, this is area is equal to length times width. Again, I'm going to do the same kind of thing I did in the last problem. Remember, the first step that I did in my last problem was simply substitution. I substituted the length that I knew for L. I substituted the width that I knew for W. So that's the first step that I'm going to do here as well. So anywhere I see a L, I'm going to, again, replace it with 8. I have the same flower bed here, so my length doesn't change. My width does not change. And anywhere I have a W, I'm going to replace it with a 4. Now obviously I can't just put a 4 here, I have to put a multiplication symbol in here. The variables right next to each other, of course, mean multiplication, but I do need to put a multiplication symbol in there. And I'm left with a very simple flashcard problem, 8 times 4, and I'm going to tell you that my area is then equal to 32. And again, this is not a good answer for my homework because I need to put a label on there, and this is where I want to remind you guys, it's not just 32 feet, but it's actually 32 feet squared. Okay, this label right here, feet squared, implies that it is not just a linear length, but a square length. Okay, so my area in this problem is equal to 32 feet square. So if I was getting soil for this bed, I would have to make sure that I have enough to cover 32 feet square. Now on the top of page 33, you'll see another problem that's the one that you see here recreated, which is finding the side length. If I was given a square like this and I was told that the area was 81 square feet, but this time I don't know what the side length is, can I still figure this out? Well, yes, I can. I can still do that. Notice with formulas, that's the neat thing about formulas, as I put my area formula of a square here, it doesn't matter what side you know and what side you don't know. It's all about just finding the missing piece. You remember from 1.5, lesson 1.5, we talked about balancing equations. So it doesn't matter if I know the end point or the start point, I can still find it if I just fill in the missing pieces. So my area formula for a square is area is equal to side squared. Okay, and I'm going to plug in what I know. I do not know my S, but I do know that my area is 81. Okay, it's given to me right here. 81 is equal to S squared. I'm going to still plug in what I don't know. I'm just going to let it drop down. And now for this problem, I'm going to use mental math. And I know that S squared is really the same thing as saying S times S. So I'm asking myself, is there a number that I know that when I multiply by itself is equal to 81? So what times itself is equal to 81? And that is another common flashcard problem, if you will, and I can figure out using mental math that 9 times 9 is equal to 81. So my side length is equal to 9 feet. Okay, now let's move on to one more formula. This is one of my favorite formulas, actually. I don't know why, because I'm a geek and I need to have a favorite formula apparently. But distance formula, it's just a great formula to teach about formulas. So on page 33, you see in the blue box your distance formula. Distance formula is as follows: D equals R times T. The D stands for distance. Your distance is equal to rate times time. Distance equals rate times time. Okay? D equals RT. Towards the bottom of page 33, we have another problem. Way down at the bottom, actually, on the number 5 under the guided practice. This is where I got this problem from. It says, how far does a car travel in 2 hours at a rate of 40 miles per hour? Okay, so Again, like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the pieces that we know, and we're going to have use that to figure out the pieces that we don't know. So I do not know the distance that I've traveled. That's the question I'm asking. How far? That's a distance question. I do know my rate. So I'm sorry, I should actually probably put my D down here right away. I do know that my rate is 40. It's given to me right here, 40 miles per hour. So in place of R, I'm going to put 40. And I also know that I've gone this rate for 2 hours. So in place of T, I'm going to write 2. This is a pretty simple problem again. I'm going to write my D down here. D is for distance, of course, still. 40 times 2 is equal to 80. And the only other thing that I'm missing here is a label. Okay, so what would my label be here? Well, it's 40 miles per hour. So my label is actually going to be 80 miles. So my homework answer is going to be, how far does a car travel in 2 hours at a rate of 40 miles per hour? It travels 80 miles. It's as simple as that. Okay, now I hope that helps you out. And a reminder, if you get stuck on any homework, you can come on back and watch how we work through some of these problems. Otherwise, go ahead and get started on your homework. Your homework is found on page 34. I want you to do numbers 1 through 6, all of them. Please do numbers 8 through 22, just the evens. And then there's a couple word problems at the end, numbers 26 and 27. Please have fun, and let me know how that goes. Thank you. Bye.